Okay, I just got done talking about acids and bases on my previous video. So now we're going to talk about water. Um, Water is the liquid of life. We cannot survive if we don't have water in our lives, or in our bodies, in our cells. And it's not just us, that's every living thing. Every living thing has to have water. So we call it the liquid of life. And it does a lot of amazing things that allows it to be called the liquid of life. My clicker works. So it makes up big percent of our body and our cells. And you guys know that it's H2O, two hydrogens for every one oxygen. This is something that you guys have probably learned, or probably known for a very long time. But the big thing about what makes water so incredible is this thing called polarity. Now, before I get into what polarity is in water, think of a magnet. Okay, a magnet has a positive end and a negative end, right? So if I have the positive end of one magnet and I stick it to the negative end of another magnet, well, they're going to attract to each other. So those difference in charges on a magnet make that a polar object, just like we have a North Pole and a South Pole on the Earth. Well, water is kind of the same thing. Because of the way the hydrogens and the oxygen, are put together, it makes the water polar. Now, if you read this definition, it says an uneven distribution of charges in a molecule due to the uneven distribution of electrons or uneven sharing. Okay, so what this means is that the electrons, remember that a covalent bond makes, or covalent bond holds together water molecules. It holds together the hydrogens to the oxygen because they're sharing electrons. Well, when that happens, there are 8 protons in the oxygen, right? So because there's such a high amount of protons, which are positive charges, all of the electrons are kind of attracted to those positive charges in the nucleus of the oxygen. And since that's the case, all of the oxygens, even though the hydrogens and the oxygens are sharing the electrons spend more time closer to the oxygen because they're attracted to those 8 positive charges in the nucleus. And because of that, since all of those electrons are pulled towards the oxygen side of the molecule, it makes the oxygen have a slight negative charge, which then leaves on the opposite side of that some positive charges down by the hydrogens. So this is what makes it a polar molecule. It's a polar molecule because when a water is put together, around the oxygen, I have a negative charge. Around the 2 hydrogens, I have positive charges. So it kind of looks like this. So I'm going to use my little pointer here. The electrons, when they're shared, are going to stay around the oxygen more. So if I bring a bunch of those negative charges circling this oxygen, gives me a negative charge up top, and then I get 2 positive charges down here at the bottom. That's why we can call this a polar molecule, because it has two different charges on either side or either pole of the water. Now, because of that, we're able to make hydrogen bonds. Hydrogen bonds are when polar molecules attract to each other because of the different charges. So the positive and the negative charge attract to each other. So just like our ionic bonds, when I have a positive and a negative attracting to each other, in a hydrogen bond, I have 2 polar molecules attracting to each other because of their difference in charges. Now you see there, it's not as strong as a covalent bond or an ionic bond, but these are kind of weaker bonds that will hold water molecules together, or will allow a water molecule to be attracted to other substances. So there you go. The hydrogen on one water molecule will be attracted to an oxygen on another. I'm going to show you some diagrams here in the next slide. Now there's 2 things that you need to know with this. Now let me just pull them both up. Adhesion and cohesion. Cohesion is when water will stick to other water. Okay, water sticks to one water molecule sticks to another water molecule. That's called cohesion. So you've seen this before. You probably just didn't know the name. Okay, When you see a bead of water forming on the outside of a car, that's because of cohesion. Cohesion is holding all those water molecules together and causing them to bead up or basically stick together and form this little bubble. Okay. It also causes this thing called surface tension, like on the surface of a lake or a pond, because those water molecules are forming these hydrogen bonds right at the top. So if you've seen little bugs walking across the top of water, it's because of surface tension, which is due to cohesion. Adhesion is when water molecules will be attracted to other substances. Okay, so remember, there's a positive and a negative charge on a water molecule. They can stick to other things because, well, that other thing that it's sticking to probably has a positive or negative charge. And again, this is something that you've seen before. If you take a shower and you get out and you have water sticking to your face, your body, your arm, whatever, that's because of adhesion, water sticking to you. If you've ever seen water climbing up a straw when you have a drink, that's because that's this thing called capillary action. That is because of adhesion, water is climbing up that straw. This also occurs, in nature because water can climb up roots and get to the leaves of plants and trees. So before I get into all of this over here, you see I have hydrogen on one molecule sticking to the oxygen of another molecule. Hydrogen of this one sticking to the oxygen of this one, forming these bonds. These are all hydrogen bonds. Okay, and this just takes you. This slide just takes you through a lot of stuff I've already said. The positive hydrogen will be attracted to the negative oxygen of a neighboring water molecule. This is because of polarity. Now they call water the universal solvent. A solvent, remember the substance that a solute is dissolved in. So it's a universal solvent because many things will dissolve in it. Because of the polarity of the water, it allows things to dissolve in it. Got a couple different pictures here. You see just a silly diagram. Cohesion is when waters stick to each other. Adhesion is when waters will stick to other surfaces. Adhesion causes the water to stick to the leaf or the blade of grass, whatever that is. Cohesion causes these little beads of water to form. Now, this is an example of capillary action. If I put a straw into water, the water kind of climbs up the sides. Well, that's because of adhesion allowing the water to stick to the tube. Now, there are two videos I'd like you to watch here. This one just actually 3 videos. So one there, one here, and one here. Please watch all those videos because it does a much better job of explaining everything I just told you there than I do. And that is the magic of water.